So some of you guys already know, recently I picked up the Sony A7 III and have been testing this thing out consistently. Now, one of the tests that I really loved about the A7 III was the fact of how good it was in low light. In fact, I did a whole video on that topic alone. But it really got me thinking, how well does a full frame A7 III shooting in 4K compare to my Canon 1DX Mark II that has to crop down in 4K? So yeah, that's what we're gonna be looking at today. What's good, creative fam? Brandon Washington here. And first of all, if you're brand new to the channel, if you've never seen one of my videos before, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button because this channel is all about filmmaking gear, tips, and tutorials. And as you guys saw in the thumbnail and in the title, today we're looking at the Sony A7 III versus the Canon 1DX Mark II, completely in low light scenarios. Now for this test, I put these two cameras through 3 different scenarios, all with lighting situations that are easy to kind of replicate and easy for you guys to kind of know, like a gauge as far as how much light is really being emitted. The first one is a candlelight test. The second one is with LED lights, and they're like these little fairy lights. And then the third one is using just a flashlight on my cell phone. So I'm not gonna tell you which camera is which. I'm just gonna go through these 3 shots, let you guys see them, and then ultimately let you make your decision as far as which one do you like most. Alright, so there you have it. Those are the shots. Now, before we move on, definitely check out the poll that I have going on right above and let me know right now, which one did you like better? Did you like camera A or camera B? Fill that out right now before I let you guys know which is which, so that way you can be completely unbiased and unknowing as far as which one you liked more, because it just might surprise you. Alright, you ready? So here's how they broke down. Camera A was the Sony A7 III, and then camera B was the Canon 1DX Mark II. Now, this test was actually kind of surprising, kind of not. When I say I wasn't surprised, I kind of was expecting the A7 III to do better in the low light, which it definitely did. I mean, you can see between these 2 shots how much more detail you're able to get in the shadows from the A7 III. What I was surprised was how the Canon versus how the Sony actually plays with light. So for example, when I take these 2 shots and I actually look at their waveforms on my computer, you can actually see that Canon pretty much takes their blacks all the way down, or their shadows all the way down, and basically kind of capitalizes them right at the bottom. Well, that is because they are looking for pure black, and then they're also looking for their highest highlights and pretty much filling in all the light in between. Whereas on Sony, you can see that theirs doesn't actually hit the bottom, which gives you room to actually crush the blacks if you want to, or leave that detail in the shadows. This can be very good and very bad, because from what I've seen with the Sony is, because it does this, it does leave a little bit more room for noise straight out of camera. But the nice thing is you can always crush your blacks and get rid of that noise without any problem. Canon doesn't really give you that option. It's more like it's kind of just pre-done in camera, and when it comes out, it is what it is. Now, another thing that really shocked me, and this has nothing to really do with low light so much as it has to do with color science, which is, this is the first time where I've seen the Sony drastically change the color of something in camera. Now, I myself have always been a huge fan of Canon colors because they're very true and natural, but Sony has always had this issue with things coming across more green, and this was very apparent in this shot of the LED lights. To my naked eye, which is hard for me to convey on camera for you guys, I can say that the LED lights looked exactly how they looked in this shot with Canon. But on the Sony, right out of camera, it added this little bit of a green tint to it, adding some green to basically the highlights. of the shot. Now, typically this has not been an issue, whether that's been on skin tones or other things that I shot with the Sony. I've never had this issue, but when it came to this color that kind of was a sort of tealish blue, really leaning more towards the blue side of things, the Sony registered this as almost green. So definitely something I'm gonna have to kind of really look into. Now I have a whole nother test I want to do. I want to compare the color science of these two cameras, but it really does have to kind of just be said up front that in this low light test, where there wasn't much information in the shadows and all the information was coming from the highlights, the Sony definitely had an issue with getting that color just right. Now, one last little thing about that, this is not a break for the Sony, because with editing you can easily just convert those colors back over, and it holds all that color information, so that's not an issue, but I did just want to point it out. You know, all in all, I think the Sony and the Canon did a phenomenal job, but if I had to break it down to just one camera to take out for low light situations, I'm probably gonna roll with the Sony, just because having that additional information in those shadows and having the access to be able to decide if I want to keep it or not and letting that be up to me, I'm more so leaning that way. The other thing is, yes, there's a little bit of noise in the Sony in those shadows, where if you had to crush it to probably get rid of it in some situations, but probably as far as what you guys saw here on YouTube and most of the internet, noise doesn't really translate the way we see it in our editor versus the way we actually see it when it's uploaded, because all these different uploading systems, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or Vimeo or any other site, most of them are doing some type of like compression to the video, which pretty much takes out almost all of that noise. So even though we're seeing it when we're editing, we probably won't see it when we upload it. So there you have it, guys. Did this test shock you? Did it surprise you what you saw, or was this exactly what you were expecting to see, and this just kind of gave you more validation with your current beliefs as far as if you're gonna roll with Canon or Sony and low light or pretty much whatsoever? But I'd love to know what you guys had to think about this test and any other tests you want to see me do with these two cameras side by side. Leave those down in the comments and I'll be sure to check those out. But thanks again so much for checking out this video. Again, if you thought it was helpful, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.